Oh boy, let the influencer wars begin. All of this as Donald Trump definitely is changing the sphere of influence around the world, more favorable towards the United States. This says there's an online right-wing flame war between two of the most prominent and gay right-wing media personalities that are at odds with each other with the current events that are unfolding right now with Donald Trump's Middle Eastern policy. As, of course, we have Glenn Greenwald facing off against Dave Rubin. Who is right? Who is wrong here? And what's the bigger takeaways when it comes to this grander discussion of this new world order that Donald Trump is reshaping under the vision of American populism, business enterprise, and not neoconservative thinking? Well, we'll get into it, as of course there's a more nuanced take here that I wanted to of course, extrapolate from, but I think these discussions are important, and if you do too, subscribe and click the notification button. And now, let's just get right into it, as we had this posted by the Jerusalem Post showing Edan Alexander's return to his New Jersey hometown. Now, Glenn Greenwald, who has been a critic of the Israeli government, tweeted, "Seeing lots and lots of national flags being waved at this event in New Jersey celebrating the return of the Israeli-American IDF soldier, Edan Alexander. But vanishingly, few of those flags are the American flag." Of course, bringing some criticism here that a lot of people didn't see it from his type of perspective, as a lot of people are now particularly bringing up, hey, you know, the Middle East isn't really that tolerant, and the other people that you're rooting for aren't really that patriotic either. Are those criticisms fair? Well, I would say that Glenn Greenwald responding to it is a little bit more of a nuanced take here, as we had one person criticizing Glenn Greenwald saying Edan Alexander was abducted not because he is an American, but rather because he is Jewish. So are you. Glenn Greenwald, be proud and embrace your Jewishness. Remove the chip from your shoulder. Glenn Greenwald responded, no, he was abducted because he was an active duty IDF soldier on a military base. Parties at war have been taking active duty soldiers for as long as war exists. They're called prisoners of war, except when IDF soldiers are taken, then they're innocent hostages. Now, originally, I thought this guy was a hostage too, until I actually saw the video footage of his capture, and in fact, he is a soldier. He is a prisoner of war here, and Glenn's right here. This is more of a nuanced take to make here, but soldiers are taken prisoner, and we see prisoner exchanges done routinely. Just to say that this is a hostage is a little bit of a misnomer, and I can understand the point that Glenn Greenwald is making, but then comes Dave Rubin with this very flaming rebuttal, hot rebuttal here, saying, Glenn, you should take your show on the road. Go to Gaza with your nasally effeminate gay affect and tell them what a principled Jew you are. Find out if you get beheaded or just held captive. Effing Riri. Yeah. It looks like there was a little bit of a crash out, a little bit more of a emotional response here. Let's just be honest with ourselves, as Dave Rubin even admitted. One might argue that tweet was a bit much, but no, he's a vile piece of ish. And I'm in a middle seat on Southwest, so it is what it is. Trying to, of course, excuse some of the more kind of flamboyant, very aggressive, very wah type of behavior with a clapback that was pretty severe. I think a little bit more of an overreaction here, as even Bobby Sauce responded by saying, bro, you're almost 50 and still tweeting crash outs. It definitely did seem like a crash out. And then, of course, I think it's a little bit of a harsh take here. But again, we're arguing apples to oranges here. And I think Glenn Greenwald's point here kind of stands here, because when you do look at the argument that he's making and the criticism that he's making, he is particularly saying, hey, I still think that this release is great. There's more to this release that, by the way, a lot of insiders are talking about how this was happening in a way where the Israeli government really wasn't too happy about this. Ben Shapiro wasn't too happy about this. But I think overall, it's fair to say, the more people that get released, the more goodwill that's being shown here, regardless of the side here. And I've been calling for more goodwill. I've been calling for more truces, more peace. I'm predominantly anti-war, always have been anti-war, and that is one of my principled stances that I have always stood on throughout my entire career. No matter what the conflict is, there should always be a de-escalatory path. There should always be goodwill. There should always be the lack of death and destruction. But there are some right-wingers that want more death and destruction, that want more war. There's nuanced discussions to be had here. The fact that Eden Alexander was a soldier for some people is a moot point. To me, it was a point that I wasn't even aware of, but it does bring more contrast and brings in another perspective that sadly we were not getting from the right wing, unless if it was Glenn Greenwald that, of course, provided the commentary, which I thought was right. And I thought Dave Rubin's response here was a little bit too much here. Now, there's a lot of right-wing kind of Israeli influencers that really aren't happy with the current events that are unfolding in the Middle East right now. As Donald Trump came to the Israelis and said, look, we're going to have a ceasefire here. The Israelis said, we're calling up our reservists and we're going to give them everything we can. And then, Jordan Peterson's like, give them hell. Interesting group. And we'll get into that group because Dave Rubin actually has more of a level-headed response to this than a lot of the friends that he hangs out with, like Jordan Peterson, like, of course, Ben Shapiro, that some people would argue are crashing out here. But this crash out moment is a little bit indicative here. But before showing you Dave Rubin's actually nuanced point, we wanted to tell you about the bestpoliticalshirts.com, one of the best shirt companies out there, a shirt company that came out of necessity ever since we were one of the first ever demonetized YouTube channels ever. We're like, what's going on here? We don't know what's going on here. And everyone's like, yeah, this never happened to anyone before. It happened to us. And when we were shadow banned, censored, demonetized, downranked in the algorithm, which we continue to do here in so many different ways here, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make sure that my voice, my message, my ideas, and the collective consciousness of the kind of great awakening that all of us are a part of, I want to make sure I'm going to propel that. And I'm going to propel that through T-shirts. And that's why, like the shirt that I'm wearing right now, that just reads, "The government sucks," you could get on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Great shirt. And I'm trying to see the keyword sucks. You type in sucks here into the top of thebestpoliticalshorts.com. And then you're able to, of course, get the shirt that we're going to pull back up here in the making of this video. Should be up any moment now. Another one that we just released is this one. I'm a Slavic man, and Slavic lives do matter. And, BLM could do it. We could do it too. We got some other ones that are very, on the nose here, particularly when it comes to our discontent, when it comes to the system at large here, and just how unfair it is to a lot of people who just want the truth. We got hats. We got socks. We got Joe Biden sniffing your feet socks. We got tank tops. We got women's shirts. We got regular shirts. I like long sleeves because, again, once you're in AC, you put them down if you're cold. If you're in a hot area, just roll them up. And to me, it's just my own personal favorite. So get the shirts. I like this one too. I'm gonna wear this one when I go to Poland this summer. And this one is just simple: be like Poland. Their new leadership isn't that impressive. Let's just be honest with ourselves. But overall, I think they have done a great job. Now, there are some other right-wing influencers that are more aligned with Israel that are crashing out, and I'm seeing a lot of their content, and I'm seeing a lot of people kind of have a resurgence saying, Qatar bad. No, don't take the Qatar plane. Take the Israeli lobby money. yeah, that was good. No. Stop it, Trump. Trump's doing it in a more kind of overt way, and I could understand the criticism, but the criticism is compounding based on this kind of transition that Donald Trump is making against the Israeli government. As, of course, Donald Trump wants the truce, he wants the ceasefire, and the Israelis are like, no. Donald Trump's given a speech about ending neoconservative values, which Bibi Netanyahu represents so clearly, as he has been following the Project for a New American Century very closely, along with other neoconservatives that also have been able to penetrate Donald Trump's administration. One of them, Mike Waltz, that was fired because Donald Trump was kind of pissed and annoyed at him trying to work behind the scenes with Netanyahu, trying to encourage Donald Trump to bomb Iran. A lot of these right-wing Israeli influencers also want to bomb Iran, and a lot of them are just neocons. They're the old-style type of Republicans that are not populist Republicans, that are not the new MAGA, Make America First Republicans. And that's the kind of lines that are being divided here. And those lines are becoming more and more evident. There's radical voices on both of those sides here, and there's also moderate voices on them as well here. But again, I like to take more of the moderate approach here. I think the radicals have had way too much control of the discourse, because sometimes people say something crazy and everyone's like, wait, and it gets way too much attention that it actually deserves. Now the more moderate discussion, which I think Dave Rubin actually expressed here in a little bit, is a little bit more of a rational one. And I'll tell you why, specifically when it comes to Donald Trump's concession to Israel that he made today. Before that, though, the United States has been going on a full-on geopolitical tear against Israel, and there have been huge disagreements, a huge shift, a huge realignment, as there are many people within the Israeli government that are freaking out right now, as there's talks about ousting Bibi Netanyahu as someone who, of course, is not getting along with Donald Trump, and doing things to, of course, cross him, doing things to, of course, signal that the Israelis might soon be having to move away from the American influence and American support that they are getting. This is a real life conversation. As some people are saying, this would recognize Donald Trump. This would show him as one of the biggest influencers, the biggest change makers of American policy. And we saw Donald Trump's speech in Saudi Arabia specifically speak out against this kind of nefarious neoconservative input that was a net negative for the Middle East in general. There was American diplomats saying, look, Israel doesn't want to get on board. We'll leave the train. We'll negotiate. We'll talk with all these other Middle Eastern countries. As now we're getting reports the United States is saying that they will not accept any forced or involuntary displacement of the Palestinians from the Gaza Strip. This is when there are meetings now with Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and they are specifically saying this is our red line. Donald Trump is enforcing this red line and saying, Israel, no, you will not be able to send people from Gaza to Canada, to the United States, to the Western world. And there were serious discussions a few weeks ago of Bibi saying, we're just going to take them all out, and we're going to replace them, and then we're just going to put them in Jordan, we're going to put them in Canada, we're going to replace them. And it looks like the United States just made that a big red line that they are asking Israel not to cross. Will they? We will see what the Israeli operations will do in Gaza within the next few hours and days, as they are expected to be very intense and very much going up against the grain of what Donald Trump wants in the Middle East here. Will Donald Trump be able to wrangle in Israel? Will he be able to, of course, create peace in the region? That's what, of course, he is working on. Now, there are individuals like Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin that are not too happy. That are not too happy with everything that is unfolding right now, especially with the firing of one of their guys, Steve Witkoff, that was back channeling with Bibi, trying to force Donald Trump to bomb Iran. Now, Mark Levin is saying that if anyone's saying neocon is just a pejorative term, no, it's not. And it's not anti-Semitic. It is a term for a political ideology that is the Bush, Dick Cheney type of ideology that has destroyed our country significantly under the early 2000 Bush era, that has absolutely created an entire mess. Now, Trump blasting the neocons in his speech in Saudi Arabia is very big here. Is he going to be called woke? Right? I mean, there's a lot of people that are pissed off with Donald Trump, and the way that they are expressing it is by talking about the jet. No, don't take the jet. Don't take the jet. No, don't do it. Listen, the whole jet thing is a direct response towards Donald Trump moving the sphere of influence. I also have this clip of Glenn Greenwald a month ago criticizing Dave Rubin, and I think this is why Dave Rubin kind of crashed out on him today, because of these direct criticisms that Glenn Greenwald levied against him when Dave Rubin was meeting in secret meetings with Benjamin Netanyahu, as Benjamin Netanyahu was doing a, quote, alternative media tour, trying to galvanize independent media to try to be okay with them bombing and attacking Iran. Which, again, would have been a huge geopolitical mistake that luckily Donald Trump is not going along with and not placating the Israelis on.
Are already very pro-Israel. Certain Dave Rubin, I mean, there's a picture that Dave Rubin posted of himself and Netanyahu. And, I mean, it almost looks like he's in the middle of like some sort of sexual ecstasy.
Yeah, let's be honest. Yeah. This type of worship. This type of, like, hey, this guy's an authority figure. We got to do everything we can for him. Give him hell, as Jordan Peterson said to Netanyahu when he decided to bomb the Gazans. Listen, Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, they're all crashing out here. Dave Rubin, actually, let's be real with ourselves, has more of a rational take on this. And I'll tell you why in a little bit. And it's not as black and white as a lot of people see it. But he says Trump is genuinely doing the unthinkable in the Middle East. He's changing the dynamic overnight, creating new alliances and trying to forge peace through commercial success and a renewed American involvement in the world. It is insanely ambitious and might not work, but he absolutely deserves credit. Patience and grace as this unfolds. There's been a lot of infighting on the right lately. That's the Israelis versus the non-Israelis. But this is the type of pro-American ambition that should unite everyone. Take note of who continues to try to keep dividing everyone or ignores this incredible success rolling in. Yes, it's big success. And this kind of realignment, this type of changing of the dynamics away from the neocons is the right move to make here. And this is actually a balanced take here from Dave Rubin here. As Donald Trump now is also praising the new leadership of the Syrian government that the Israeli government isn't, too fond of. As, of course, they just bombed the presidential palace in Syria, sending a message a few weeks ago saying, hey, there's some disputes here. But Donald Trump made it a part of the deal with the new Syrian government that they have to recognize Israel, a part of the deal that would lessen sanctions and get rid of sanctions on the Syrian people. And the Syrian people were very happy about that. And it looks like Donald Trump is genuinely trying to foment peace here, genuinely is trying to bring people together and say, let's just make some money. Let's stop bombing each other. Let's stop blowing each other up. And I would absolutely agree with that. But this latest guy, again, he was the coalition of the willing with the CIA, with jihadis from China, Russia, all over the world coming together in order to overthrow the Bashar al-Assad regime that was very closely aligned to the Iranians. Now Donald Trump wants to, of course, calm down tensions. I think Donald Trump needs to do a little bit more here and say, hey, there needs to be some restitution for all the Christians that you guys are purging in Syria. We need to stop the purging of the Christians. We need to give some restitution to those Christians and those minorities, Alawites, that, of course, were just attacked a few days ago. And I would like to see more conversations directed around that, and I haven't.
How did you find the Syrian president?
Right. I think very good. Young, attractive guy, tough guy. Strong pass. Very strong pass fighter.
Does that worry you at all?
He's got a real shot at pulling it together. I spoke with President Erdogan, who I'm very friendly with him. He feels he's got a shot at doing a good job.
Interesting comments here. As, of course, it looks like the intel agencies got together, a rogue band of terrorists, and now Donald Trump's trying to, of course, set deals that would get rid of some of these terrorists and, of course, keep them in jail, as they are right now in Syria, in order so they don't create an Islamic state. That's the deal that Donald Trump's trying to make with Syria, and I think that's a good deal. As we have our friend GG33 coming out saying Saudi and USA will dominate the Middle East. Jordan, UAE, Turkey will all obey. Israel overplayed its hand and will heal or defend yourself. BlackRockism replaced Zionism. I think it's fair to say that, as BlackRock also had prominent meetings with the Saudis and the United States. And again, I would say, hey, I think BlackRock has a lot of opportunities already. I think BlackRock has a little bit too much of economic opportunities. But that's just me personally, and that's some criticism that I would levy. And I think we need to have more of a level-headed take on this. I think Dave Rubin definitely crashed out on Glenn Greenwald, who is not wrong here, and was making some points that I think are worth considering here. His overall long-term view of what's going on right now, a lot better than a lot of his counterparts, like Benny Boy, Ben Shapiro, and Mark Levin, that are full-on crashing out here, as the sphere of influence definitely is significantly changing. I think it's changing for the better. I like to see this kind of rebuke of neoconservatism and this kind of talk about America first, American businesses, American enterprises, which, although isn't perfect, still represents something that is a lot better than what we previously were doing when it came to Middle Eastern policy. That's my perspective. What do you think? Do you think I'm wrong? Let me know why down in the comment section below. I love you guys. Stay tuned for more. Get a shirt on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Stay tuned for more, all here exclusively on youtube.com/wearechange. Subscribe.